If you have said to yourself, I should write that, or if someone has said to you, you should write that, then I'm talking to you because you need to write. And that's why you're tuned in to yWrite. Hi, welcome to yWrite. I'm your host, Angela Grout. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of yWrite, where we find out why you should be writing your story and why writers are writing their stories. And today I have a guest in studio from Tampa, Florida. Very exciting. She flew right in just for this episode. She's written an insightful guide, which I have been using as a little bit of a Bible, and we'll talk about that during the show. Her name is Cary Seaholm, and she is a licensed clinical social worker. She's an author, and she's a professional speaker. She specializes in a variety of mental health topics, including the devastation caused by divorce. She is the author of The Name Changer, and this is a book on how to heal from the devastation of divorce. And this divorce recovery book is catered to Christian women, and I am a Christian woman, so we're going to be talking to her about this. I want to welcome to the show from Tampa, Florida, live in studio here in Agawam, Massachusetts, Cary Seaholm.
Thank you so much, Angela. It is a pleasure to be here.
Oh, thank you so much for coming in. And, it's like, I know you have this desire to see others transformed by God's love. And, you've even said in your book, that one of your goals is to help individuals and families understand their identity in Christ. And this is very much a Christ-centered guidebook.
Absolutely.
Through divorce.
Absolutely.
Which is amazing. You are a licensed therapist, and you've helped a lot of people. You actually were you were on the Florida Supreme Court for family. You're a family mediator.
Yes, I used to practice as a family mediator. Mm-hmm.
So you've seen you have a lot of experience with seeing people go through divorce.
Absolutely. I've seen divorce through many different aspects in my clinical practice and also personally. That's what prompted me to write this book.
That's it. Why do we write a book? Because we've been through something that we know we can help somebody else through it. I always want to use the word unfortunately when I say, unfortunately, I'm also going through a divorce because, it is an unfortunate circumstance. I want to say you don't plan for this. It's, it's not something you see in your life plan. But being a Christian woman, it definitely is a struggle.
Absolutely.
It's a struggle to deal with it.
Yes.
And, it's like you created this. And when I'm reading it, I love it because it's really shows like the anxiety and the grief and everything that you go through, not just from the relationship with your spouse,
right,
but the relationship you have with God.
Right.
And when you decide, when did you decide you were going to write this book? Was it when you were going through divorce or because you saw others?
Well, a year after my divorce was final, I really felt a strong desire to write this book. And I definitely fought with the Lord about it because divorce is such a difficult topic. And I just saw everything that I went through, that my clients have gone through, my children were going through, and it just prompted me to sit down and write. And literally one day as I'm walking out of my house, it was like if I got a download. And I got the outline for the book right then and there.
Wow.
And that's where I started. That was my journey. That's how I started.
So being a writer, like just going to the writing aspect, not the topic and stuff, being a writer, like I resonate so much with that, where it's like all of a sudden it's like you think about it and you're marinating on this idea and then it's like, boom, it happens. And this is something that when I was writing a book, wanted to hear from other writers. So I'm like, why did you write this book? How did you write this book? And it's like, is it normal to all of a sudden kind of have that like eureka moment,
right,
where you're like, I want to write this book. How am I going to do it? And then all of a sudden you're scribbling as fast as you can because you're like, this is the outline. And, it's a normal part of the process, which I love hearing from, I mean, not for every writer, but, especially, you and I share that. So you're saying you got the outline, and I mean, the way that you've done each chapter is absolutely like, because that was one of my questions, like, how did you do this? Because you go into, stories, and then you have prayers, and then you have thoughtful reflections with questions for how does all that come to be, and how do you put it in a book?
Okay, thank you for asking that, and I appreciate that you can see the thoughtfulness with which I organized the book. To me, in my clinical practice, as a Christian person, I'm a born again believer, and to me, true healing really happens when clinical principles and Christian beliefs, the Bible really, are put together. Yeah. That's how we experience true healing, when we allow Christ into our pain. So, and the book has the stories from many other women that have gone through the same things, because divorce is a very personal thing. Yeah. Although it's very personal, it is a universal pain. Yeah. And unless you experience it, you really don't understand just the impact of it. It is absolutely devastating. Mm-hmm. So incorporating other stories to help normalize. That's why support groups are vital. That's
very
why
vital.
It feels like when people read this book, I've heard so many times, I could have written this book. I feel like I could have written all these chapters, because it is such a personal experience, but it is universal.
Yes.
So that the pain that is dealt with in the book, it's common thread.
Yeah, I mean, I have, I'm like writing. I love this. I have to write in all my books, so it's like I have to own this. Like, when did this experience happen? I'm writing these notes, because it's definitely, even though it's the universal, I can pinpoint how it's affecting me. And that's the way the Bible is too. But it was like, wow, yeah, I know she didn't write this book for me, but this is really amazing. Just. Because when a couple gets married, I mean, we're going to love and cherish each other
right.
Until death does its part. Although I used to think that it was until death, like one of the people dies, but I'm realizing I think that it's till a death does its part in your marriage. I don't know if that's true or not, but
I mean, yes.
Death changes
Divorce
things.
is a death. Divorce is a death, for sure.
Yeah, and just going through the support groups, like you said, are really helpful. And I have been in a support group for a couple years now. And I've said to them, sometimes you think, like, if your spouse died, people are bringing casseroles to your house. They're calling you saying, do you want to, go have a cup of tea? Like they don't know what to say, but they know that you need the companionship. When you're going through divorce, it's you're isolated.
Right.
You're isolated.
It's a very lonely experience.
Yeah. And, you have... I made notes. I'm reading this, like, some of the things that, you talked about was the scarlet letter of divorce. Mm-hmm. And it's like, of course, that's the first thing that comes to your mind when you start thinking about divorce. Because you're like, oh my God, I'm going to be labeled now. I'm going to be, I don't want to be a divorce. I want to be a married woman. Like, that's what I want to be. And then the judgment that comes with it. And that whole chapter that you wrote really helps to, like, erase the stigma of the scarlet letter, because when you're living it doesn't mean the same thing.
Correct. And that's really the premise of the book. We take on the identity of rejected, abandoned, divorcee, divorced. When somebody asks you what your marital status is, divorced. When you go somewhere, oh, I'm a divorced person. Yeah. Or my ex-husband. You label yourself in relation to the divorce. Mm-hmm. So this book is really about taking off that identity of rejected, abandoned, divorced, and putting on the identity that Christ has for you as his chosen daughter. Yeah. And the 14 chapters of the book allow you to remove a certain part of the stigma, the pain, the unforgiveness, the abandonment, learning how to implement boundaries, learning how to help your children, because this is also very devastating for them as well, and helping your children place Christ in the center of their lives too, and so they can heal and move forward.
Oh, my pen was in the book, and it marked off the children's chapter, because I was like, I want to reread that. I need to reread that, because it is, hard. I'm not at this point, like, I'm not a product of a divorced family, so when you think about it, you're like, oh, for the children, like, were we meant to be? Because if my parents didn't get married and now they're not going to be together, does that mean I shouldn't have been born? And it's like, absolutely not. Like, right. That's the whole purpose. One of the main purposes of joining in a relationship. And I'm so grateful not only for my children, but for the father that I have for them. But, everything. I mean, one of the other chapters you have in here is called "Letting Go of the Fantasy."
Right.
And going through a divorce, you do have the fantasy of, well, at least I didn't know we're going to get back together. We're going to be able to fix this. I'll be able to fix him. I'll be able to fix me. We're going to be able to, find joy in our life. And the way you talked about it really shows how you have to go through the acceptance period of knowing that, that fantasy isn't a reality. So you need to create your reality.
And as a Christian woman, this is why I wrote this book, because divorce in the church, people will tell you, oh, he'll have his Damascus Road moment, which is that he'll have a sudden conversion, he'll realize what he has done, or just have more faith, pray more, fast more, do more, and they will change. So it's on you to do all the things so that other person will change. But the same way that God gives us free will, he gives our spouses free will. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, the people that are meant to love and protect and be there for us sometimes are the very ones who abandon post. And we can't change that. We can't change that for them. We can't change that for our kids. So learning the difference between wishful thinking and fantasy and faith is really important as we move forward in healing and wholeness.
Yeah. And that's why it's so important for people like you, especially, to share your journey and your expertise in a book, because you can reach so many others. I mean, you're sitting one-on-one with your clients dealing with, what they're going through on an individual basis. But when someone can share, the wisdom and the education, that you have as a clinical psychologist, but also, it's always so sad that sometimes we have to go through what our clients are going through in order to really resonate with what they're doing. Like for me, every author that comes on the show, I can talk about what it's like to write a book because I understand that process. And to go to someone who hasn't, necessarily gone through a divorce, do they really understand what you're going through? Yeah. And, I'm sorry you had to go through that, but I'm thankful because, you went through this. Tell me about the name of the title of the book, because right now, it's speaking to me a little bit, because you're kind of like the name changer. Us women, we get married, and the majority of women take on their husband's name. We take on a whole new identity when we get married. So now when you're going through this divorce, you're like, who am I? And do I change my name? Right. So what's with the title?
The title, The Name Changer, it's a play on words for both sides. Mm-hmm. It's the name that we change after we divorce. Mm-hmm. That's one. But more importantly, it's our identity. Mm-hmm. It's how we see ourselves. We take off the scarlet letter and we take on the identity of Christ. Yeah. And we see ourselves as his chosen daughters.
Got it. Yeah, I totally understand that now. And it's so true, because you do see the name as in the label of who you are. Mm-hmm. It's like married, divorced. No, daughter of God.
When you see yourself through when we see ourselves through the eyes of Christ, and we truly understand who we are in him, everything changes. Mm-hmm. Everything is transformed. Yeah. When we can lean totally into him, it's that peace in the midst of chaos. It's that joy in the midst of when your world is falling apart, that you have that anchor in your soul, knowing that no matter what, he's got you. He hasn't abandoned you. He hasn't forgotten about you. Mm-hmm. The word of God says, though mother and father may leave me, you will never leave me. You will never forsake me. Yeah. And we are not forsaken.
You have, and every chapter, again, when I talk about the layout that you have, has quotes from the Bible. It has, your new names, mm-hmm. This particular chapter is called Count Your Joy, and it's saying here you have a new name and you're called Unshakable. Mm-hmm. And I actually dog-eared this page. I was like, I'm going to share this. I don't know if you want to read it but you have this prayer. Each chapter has a prayer that you've written, and the prayer has an attachment, or I'm going to say a reference to Bible, to the Bible. And I just, I'm just going to read a little bit of it, because, you're alone in the divorce, but that God, I know God is here with me. He's walking it with me. So when I'm trying to have that, physicality of God. Like, okay, yes, there's the Bible. There's, there's books, there's lifelines out there. And this is where, you realize, God's providing. God's providing. Before I read the prayer, I'm just going to share how we met. I'm going to share how we met. We met, I believe it was 2 or 3 years ago.
Yes.
For those of you who know, we're in Agawam, Massachusetts, and the next town over is West Springfield, and it's the home of the Eastern States Exposition, which is the biggie, and it's New England's Great State Fair. And if you haven't followed me on my Facebook page, you should, because I love the biggie. I am like over the top with the biggie. My family goes crazy with it. They know for 17 days in September, I love the biggie, and I will post different things about the biggie. And so I happen to be, going around the biggie, meeting people and networking. And I come across you who's there, and we're at the apple fritter booth.
Apple fries.
And, they're like the French fries, so they're made out of apples. And then you can put like the cinnamon sugar on them. And they're so good. They're so good. And I don't even know how we started talking about that. We wrote books. I don't even know how that happened. But we had this beautiful moment. I mean, we were together, I'm going to say 10 minutes max.
Yeah.
And, sometimes you meet someone, and whether it's 1 minute, 10 minutes, or 10 years, it makes a lifetime effect.
Wow.
And you had mentioned that, you're a therapist and you wrote a book about divorce. And I remember thinking in my head, like, I might need to read this book. But I wasn't there yet. And I did share with you that I was having trouble in my marriage.
Yes.
And we had a beautiful moment. We sat and we held hands and we prayed, and the middle of the fair is going on, and you got the Ferris wheel and the circus and the New England State buildings with all the great food, and we're like across from the turkey leg booth. Listen to me, I'm going to name everything. And you and your family actually own this, the apple fries, and you're back again this year, which is why you're in person. So for people who are going to the Big E, they have to try the apple fries.
They're amazing, guys.
They are amazing. And you are, so for those of you who know the Big E, I'm just going to tell you where her booth is. There's a food court, right? Which is the food court's kind of in front of the Ferris wheel. And then you're going to go to the left, and her booth is down there. Are you on the left or the right side?
The left. Behind the Young building.
Behind the Young building. So, yeah, definitely go look for her. We have the books there for sale.
Well, no. I
might need to.
I know,
year.
right? I should have thought about that. Oh.
Hi, are you here for apple fries, or are you here for the name changer? Both. The comfort food.
We do have free prayers listed on our menu.
Oh, you do?
Oh, yes, we do, because, we are Christians,
and you're a very good prayer, I mean, it's like, it's just nice when you meet someone, they're like, you know what, can I say a prayer, and when someone can say a prayer and write a prayer, that's just beautiful, because prayer is not only poetry, but it is the voice of our soul. So this prayer, as I said, comes from the chapter of Count It All Joy. And really, I'm reading this, and this is what it says. Do you mind if I read it?
Please.
Okay. Lord, your word says to give rest to the weary and heavy laden. I am discouraged and feeling disillusioned by the way my life has turned out. You alone know the weight of the burdens I carry. I need your help, Lord. Your word says that you are a present help in times of trouble. I need that help today. I come to the throne of grace to receive your healing touch. And I've underlined these lines because it's like, that is how you feel, because you feel discouraged, and, there is the disillusion of, this is how my life is turning out. I mean, that's not how I thought my life was going to turn out. So when you're helping women, I mean, your clients are all women?
Majority, but I do, of course, work with men as well and families, but majority women.
Okay. Because, this book, even though I'm saying it's, kind of catered for women, anybody can read this.
Right.
It's definitely very helpful. But, like, when you're sitting and talking to women about, them feeling dissolute, trying to accept that, what do you say? Tell me.
Our lives are not going to, sometimes they don't turn out the way that we hoped. And that's where the discouragement of that's where people have a crisis of faith for the most part. When things don't turn out, when God isn't acting the way that they thought he should have.
Yeah.
When prayers go unanswered, when the cries have felt unheard. And that's where we have the crisis. That's where we need to lean into it and And it's not about fixing it, because none of us can fix it. I can't fix what's happening with anybody. All we can do is be there for them, support them through it, and help them find meaning in the pain so that they can move forward.
Yeah, that's the meaning of the silver lining, sort of, in a way. I don't know.
I mean,
I don't know if I like how I said it. There's no silver lining in it, but there is a meaning.
There's a meaning, and this is hard. This is a hard topic.
Yeah.
Especially when things just happen and you've been blindsided and you've prayed for years. Yeah. I've met so many women that have prayed for their husbands for years and have been in chronically abusive emotional relationships, because that's the unseen abuse.
Yeah.
That's the abuse that is just accepted as normal because we tolerate it and we accept that to be normal in our own lives because many of us have grown up in that environment, so we think that that's an acceptable way of being. And so these women have been in these chronically abusive relationships, and then their spouse leaves, or there's a crisis point. And it's
I understand the crisis point, and for those who know me, there's none of that going on with my marriage, but life changes you.
Right.
Life changes you, and I remember literally coming over my honeymoon, and my godfather had called me to tell me he was getting divorced, and he had been married 23 years, and I was like, what do you mean you're getting divorced?
Right.
And I'm fresh off a honeymoon. And, he said, people change. Life changes you. And I thought, that's BS. I don't understand that. And, for my personal journey, like, the pandemic changed a lot of things in my life. I mean...
Yeah, for a lot of people.
And that pandemic... I mean, if I want to put blame on anything, sometimes I want to blame the pandemic for me getting divorced right now. But I know that that's not it. It almost was like kind of the wake-up call of, I always say, and you've written this somewhere in here too, I read, like, you want to be with people who accept you for who you are. You want to be with someone who's going to cheer your, be a cheerleader for you, and you want to do that for someone else too. And, when you know your calling as a Christian person and you can't fulfill your calling because of insecurities or people who don't have the, what's the word? They don't believe in you. It's hard. You want to surround yourself with people who do believe in you.
I mean, that's true too. That's hard.
It's hard. And, and right here I'm reading the book on, how to heal from the devastation of divorce. And it's painful.
Absolutely.
It is painful. We talked about how I'm going to reread the chapter on children, but what's your advice that you, not only share in the book, but with your clients of, how to co-parent with your kids?
Right. And that is the hardest part. Once we've come through kind of the haze of the divorce and the haze that this is the new reality, this is going to be the new normal, and how do we do life here on out? So in the initial phases of divorce, so there's different kinds of co-parenting. So there's parallel parenting, there's co-parenting, and then there's parenting with somebody who's just unreasonable. Right. So most parents are wanting the best for their children and wanting their children to be able to thrive post-divorce. That's not the case for everybody. Sometimes children are used as pawns, which is very unfortunate and the worst thing that can happen. In the initial phases, I encourage parents to parallel parent, which is they're wanting to do the best for their kids, minimal communication with the other parent, limit communication via email and text, because there's so much emotion. There's so much emotion. And a big mistake that parents make is to just jumping into co-parenting. And there's a big gray area in the midst of high levels of emotion. So parallel parent at first, so the emotions kind of start waning, and then go into a co-parenting situation. Now, there's many books written on dealing with a high conflict ex-partner, people who alienate, their children. There's all, and I work with a lot of that in my practice, and I write about that in the book as well. But at the end of the day, the most important thing to remember as a parent is, although you may be divorcing that person, your child is half of them and half of you. And anytime a parent disparages the other parent, the child will take that so personally. So it is very important for us to really work together for the for the good of our children.
No, yeah. No, it's definitely very important in that chapter. That's why I'm rereading the chapter. But, just the way you've written this book, I think is such a beautiful way of sharing, you aren't alone, but this is unique to you. So now figure out what's unique about you and how you can work through it to find the meaning, like you were saying. So I know we're running out of time a little bit, and I have so much more I want to ask you. So 2 things. One is I'm going to go back to this book cover because you have the white heart and you have these beautiful roses. Can you tell me a little bit about the artwork? Because picking a cover is near and dear to every author.
Yes. And I'm so happy that you recognize that, because it is. This took me so long to figure out. If you look at the roses, they're threaded. It's scarlet thread.
Okay.
So, and when we look at the heart, it's like it's coming back to life. And so it's like coming back to life from a death.
Okay. Yeah. Because at first I was like, it's a white heart, so it's like the blood's been drained out of it.
Right.
But it looks so healthy.
Right.
And it's almost like that like crystal ball of, you're still that beautiful person. Now let's put new love in it.
It's coming back to life. You're coming back to life. And if we allow ourselves to go through the process and to go through healing, and this has been the experience that I've had and the experience that my clients have had as well, you will come out a stronger person. You will learn things about divorce. Forces you to face things about yourself that you maybe never had.
Yeah, 100%.
And you will come out a stronger person, and you will be able to comfort with the comfort you've been given.
I love that. So, like, I was going to share this quote from this book. All right, I am going to turn to page 77 because there was something on page 77 that I said, this really can help couples. And I almost felt at this point when I was reading this is like, people might want to read this before they get married.
Yeah. This is a good book as well for those who have been in a relationship where they never got married.
Yep.
Also for those who have been divorced or even contemplating divorce, or remarried after a divorce.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No.
Because there's so much baggage that people take into their new marriages.
Yep.
And so this is a really good book because it deals with all the areas of the heart that need healing. It's a manual for healing. It
is. It really is. And one of the things you wrote is you said, we must put forth effort to learn the ways of the Lord, which is, for me, I'm saying, see what he wants for us to do, not only in our own lives, but with other people. But then we wrote, I underline, when we love someone, we want to get to know them and spend time with them. And I think that is a really important thing because for me, my personal journey is, you forget to spend time with the person that you supposedly love most in the world. And if you lose that, then that's the start of the communication breakdown.
Well, any marriage, friendship has to be the base.
Yes.
And this is why, even when I talk to my daughters, when I talk to young women, I always tell them, the greatest decision you will make in your life after accepting the Lord Jesus Christ is who you marry.
Who you spend your whole life with.
Because it will make your life a hell or a joy.
Yeah.
And it'll either propel you into where you need to be or pull you down.
Yeah.
That is the greatest decision you will ever make. So make that decision wisely. And it has to be based on friendship.
Yeah.
Because...
And respect for each other.
Of course. If there is not a friendship at the base where there's trust, and you can actually be yourself and you can be vulnerable in front of that person.
Yeah.
Then...
And accepted.
Right.
Not criticized.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Well, so I give a writing prompt at the end of the show, which I'm going to do, but I'm going to talk a little bit about it right now because one of the chapters you wrote is how to fake when you're not okay.
Yeah.
And that's something that everyone goes through. So that chapter itself really kind of stands out a lot because you don't advertise to everybody, and it takes time. I mean, I've been going through this process for 2-3 years now, so it's like some people are still today just learning. So it's like, you're slowly saying, oh yeah, no, everything's fine, I'm great. Then you're going home and sobbing into your pillow, which is what, we do. So again, I want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you for writing this. And this is why people have to write. Cary, can you tell people how they can get this book, how they can get in touch with you if they, want more information?
Sure. Thank you so much. So my practice is chosencounseling.com. And you can find out more about me, my practice, and order the book from my website. The easiest way I have found, you can get it from any major book retailer online if you type in the name changer and my name, Cary Seaholm. But Amazon has really been the easiest way. You get it within a day or two. Yeah. So if you just type in the name changer, Cary Seaholm, you'll get it.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure.
Your friendship, our God-given connections. So thank you.
Thank you.
And I want to thank you, the listening audience, for tuning in every week to this program called yWrite. So, you can find out why people are writing because you need to find a way to tell your story. And I don't know how you're going to do that. Only you can figure it out. Will it be in a book? Will it be will you start giving speeches or talks to someone? Are you going to write a movie or a play? Who knows? There's all sorts of different ways. But today you're going to do a writing prompt because that's what this show is about, is to get you writing. So when the show is done, I want you to set your timer for 10 minutes. And as I said before, there are times in our life where we have to pretty much put on that actor's face and pretend everything's okay when your world is really falling apart. And, whether you are going through a health issue or a divorce, or if you're having a job change, or an elderly parent, something's going on in your life where your inner world is falling apart and you've had to pretend to be okay when you're not. So what I want you to do is to take the writing prompt to say, tell me about a little bit of a time, tell about a time that you were pretending to be okay, and talk about what you were feeling on the inside. And you might even want to do this from the perspective, this is going to sound interesting, of writing from something around you that's observed you, who can hear your thoughts. So maybe your pet is like, you know what? I was watching Angela today and I know she's going through this and this is what she's thinking. You might want to write it from the perspective of your eyeglasses, your coffee cup, just because then you're having an outside view of what you're looking like, pretending to look okay and doing a good job at it. So thanks so much for tuning into this episode of yWrite, and we'll see you next time. See ya.